Today is part 3 of 3 videos on food waste and food insecurity in Canada. We'll be exploring some solutions for household waste. Hi, I'm Laura Vandenherk and I work with individuals and businesses from startups to 100 million, and in developed countries there are saturated markets and pressures to operate sustainably. In part 1, I introduced a simple equation. Food produced equals food available plus food wasted plus food available to be redirected. And that last variable is actually taken out of food waste because there is 41 to 60% of food wasted in Canada is actually redirectable, and it can go to people that need it. And in Canada, there are 2.5 million people who are living in food insecurity. Now, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has made targets for zero hunger. It's their second sustainable development goal. And there are targets by the year 2030 of zero hunger to reach. Household waste represents 47% of all food wasted in Canada for 3 reasons. 1, 23% is due to label confusion. 2, 30 to 60% of waste is due to spoilage and food not being used in time. And 3, 15 to 30% of waste is due to overbuying and poor storage. Awareness, education, preparing, planning, and support of all the food supply chain in Canada, working together in unison and harmony, not against each other and pointing fingers and blaming, is necessary to decrease food wasted and to increase food available to be directed, thereby decreasing the number of people in Canada living in food insecurity. So, food label confusion. You can go to canada.ca and search food labeling, where you will see that there are best before dates on food items and there are expiry dates. Expiry dates are usually on infant formula, food supplements, meal replacements. It's not on eggs, milk, dairy, cheese, or anything like that. Those have best before dates. And best before dates are mandatory for some items, and other items, there are vendors or food manufacturers that are voluntarily putting best before dates on their items. So 23% of food is wasted in this category. Why? There needs to be more awareness and there needs to be more education. And you can get that through YouTube and on the internet, and you can talk to farmers. I would suggest talking to small farmers, not the big industrial farms. You're not going to get the same answers. So there's 3 items that I want to address for label confusion, and that is eggs, meat, and cheese. So for eggs are getting thrown out before their best before date, just like the other 3 items, or at their best before date, or just after their best before date. But do we know enough about the food item itself in order to discern whether it should be put into a compost bin or thrown away? And there's lots of items in our food items that cannot go in the compost bin. So eggs, how do we tell? Are they fresh? Are they safe? Are they good for our families? Well, on the farm, we float our eggs. We would be collecting them. Our hens are all free range raised. That means they can go anywhere on our property, just not in the house. And we take these eggs that we collect and we put them in water, make sure that the water is taller than the egg so that it can float up to the top if it's not good. Spoiled eggs will float up to the top. fresh eggs will stay at the bottom, and you use cold water from the tap, not warm, not hot water. You don't want to cook your eggs. That will actually bring in other things that make the eggs that aren't good. So use cold water. If they stay on the bottom, they're fresh. If they stand up, they're starting to spoil. But starting to spoil doesn't mean they're spoiled. It doesn't mean you can't use them. And normally eggs like this will have a runny yolk. So when you crack the egg, the yolk will automatically break. I've been using these for a decade anyway, and they're fine. But the other piece of information I want to add is always break your eggs into a separate cup. So when you're making a recipe and you have all your ingredients in a bowl and you crack an egg into that bowl and that egg is spoiled somehow, now you have ruined the whole entire recipe that you have to throw out that food. Whether throwing out means you put it in the compost bin or you actually put it in your garbage. So crack your eggs separately. The yolk stays intact. It looks good. You smell it. It should smell like nothing. When you're discerning whether your food is good or not, you need to use your nose. And if you don't have a good sniffer, like allergy time, cold time, that kind of stuff, then you have to rely on how it looks and how it feels, or have somebody else in your house smell it for you. But really, it helps. So crack them in separate containers, then throw it into your recipe when you're satisfied, and keep doing that for every egg. And did you know that if you get shells into your egg, that shells attract other shells? So you don't have to worry. Some people will throw out that egg because there's shells in it. Don't throw it out. Take your shell, dip it into the egg, and it will attract the other shells like a magnet. And you'll have to be careful because the whites struggle to let you do that. But it is possible to do. So there's eggs for you. And you can float them anytime and see, and just dry them off and put them back in your egg carton, and you'll know what you can use and not use. Meat is often thrown out because of freezer burn. It's that meat that you put in the freezer. You brought it directly home from the grocery store or the butcher, and they have maybe a styrofoam plate or some kind of plastic plate underneath with the moisture packet, and then it's covered in I was going to say saran wrap, plastic wrap, and you put that in your freezer for later, and maybe it stays in there for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. There is an increased probability that your meat will get freezer burnt in that packaging because that plastic wrap will allow in air. And freezer burn is just the moisture escaping out of the meat. It's kind of like it's getting frostbite. And I've looked actually up on YouTube to see what they say about this, and they say it's fine to eat. It's going to be tougher. It might have a taste to it. It's probably going to taste like a freezer. And everybody knows what their freezer tastes like when they take out fruit sometimes, and the fruit gets freezer burn. So the meat, you can take and slice your meat once it has defrosted. You can take off the freezer burnt bits. You can fry that up, feed it to your dog, feed it to your cat, or give it to them raw. They'll like that too. But you know your animals best, but this is what we do in my house. So to avoid freezer burnt with your meat, I have a vacuum sealer, and I will vacuum seal my meat and I'll put it in the freezer, especially if I know it's going to be in there for a long time. And the third is cheese. Cheese often goes bad or spoils in our fridge when we notice that mold grows on it. And I'm going to use cheddar cheese as the example. So you've opened up your cheddar cheese, you've just wrapped the wrapper, the packaging underneath, you've put it in your fridge, and you look a couple days later and there's spots of mold. You can actually cut off the mold. And as long as the cheese smells good after you cut off the mold, then you should be able to use it. And my husband has been doing that for the better part of 30 years, and he has not made me sick once. He made it once and it smelled like mold even after he cut it off, and he shouldn't have used it, but it didn't make me sick. Now, I want you to do your own research on these items. Don't take it from me as, oh, she said this is what's going to happen and not happen, and blame me for it. That's not what I'm looking for. I am sharing awareness and some education that there is this information that you can get on the internet yourselves. So 30 to 60% of household food waste is due to spoilage for items not being used in time. What can we do better in our households? There's preparing, there's planning, there's preparing the food before you even put it in the fridge. And I want to use berries as an example. You buy a clamshell full of blueberries. You looked at it when you were in the store. You brought it home. You didn't know that there was mold in the middle. And 2 days later, you look and the whole thing is just moldy. How could you have prevented that from happening? When you bring your berries home, take them out of that clamshell with the packet in there, wash them all off, dry them all off, and put them in your own sealed containers. And then use them within the week or 2 weeks they might last, depending on how fresh these berries are, because they've had to be transported from one end of Canada to another, or maybe they're imports. So you have to take that into account, that they have been sitting in that clamshell for a while. But when you come home and you open that container and there's some moldy ones in there, that doesn't mean the whole package is spoiled. Take out the moldy stuff. Take out anything that's beside the moldy stuff if you're a little bit more cautious. And then wash it, prepare it, and then put it in your fridge. And that should last longer. Going to the store more frequently so that you don't have items in your fridge that have to last for 2 weeks because you did a big shop. Do a smaller shop, and that will cut down your waste automatically. It increases our carbon footprint. It does as a household, because we're using our vehicles. Maybe you have a hybrid vehicle, maybe you have a full electric vehicle, but if you're still using a gas car like I am, it increases my carbon footprint, but it decreases waste. There's more food available for those people that need it. And I think that is more important at this time. And in the summer, maybe I'll walk to the store and then I'll offset my carbon footprint and be at net zero. Lettuce. If you look in your fridge, and I would do this every other day or whatever you're comfortable with, but look in your fridge and see how everything's doing. Instead of going into your fridge, grabbing the stuff that you need, taking it out, and then dealing with it, once in a while, look in your fridge and check to see how everything's doing. I did this the other night, and my lettuce was starting to go bad, and it's romaine lettuce, and it was the stalk that was going bad, and that is a sign that it has been set in water. And it was going brown and soupy, and it was just disgusting. So I cut off the end, put it in my chicken pile to feed to them, and which goes on the ground at my house, and then that goes to compost if they don't eat it. And then I took the leaves and I washed them all, dried them all off in a salad spinner, and put them back in a safe vessel and put it back in my fridge. Peppers. If you see a pepper start wrinkling and you don't like that, wrinkling actually on the outside, I wouldn't use it for my crudité, which is vegetables and dip and raw vegetables and dip. I wouldn't want to eat a wrinkly pepper myself. But in a stir fry, chopped in a stew, or chopped in something that you cooked, that wrinkling you're not going to notice it at all. But cut it open and see what the inside is doing. Is the inside of the meat of the pepper starting to turn? Is it spoiling somehow, and then that's why it's wrinkling? Then cut that part away. Take the seeds out right then and there. Wash it off, dry it off, and put it in a safe container and put it back in your fridge. 3, 15 to 30% of food waste in our households are due to overbuying and poor storage. I would like to say that there's pressures on us consumers to overbuy. There's coupons, there's sales that are happening that are broadcasted. There are points cards that give you sales and volume discounts and things that you should be buying. They're directing our buying power through those points cards. So that is something that you have to mitigate on your own. It is nice to have a sale. Well, if you're going to enjoy that sale, make sure you prep and plan your freezer space, your fridge space, your pantry spaces, so that you can welcome that and you can make sure that things aren't spoiling in your cupboards and spaces that you have. I think our points cards, there is a sustainable competitive advantages for grocery stores who offer points cards. Why can't they let us gift our points cards to people in need? I look at my points card all the time. I haven't activated it yet because I don't want them to have my information, my buying and what I am buying sent to another organization or them to use it for their purchasing. So I haven't activated my card, but I have a card because I am exploring and investigating and I'm not getting very many points. So why can't I donate my points to a soup kitchen, a food bank, a food or a shelter? And if we all did this in Canada with the little amount of points that we had, some of the points, maybe not all of the points, and we donated them to local areas around us, that would actually help with food insecurity and go towards that UN FAO's second goal of zero hunger. So, grocery stores, why not let us do that? I think there are lots of people that would want to do it. It's better, I think, than buying that bag that sat there in the grocery store to help feed people. And it's a new way that we could help feed people as well. Another pressure we have as consumers is we don't really have a say anymore on what is produced on our behalf. And I'm talking about storage containers. I like the glass storage containers. They have the plastic lids. I hate that they have plastic lids, but they have plastic lids. They snap on 4 sides. They're square. They fit nice in the fridge. You can stack them really nice. You can see what's in them. It's great. But these companies are switching their product yearly, every year, every other year, so frequently that we can't keep up. And when we want to buy more of them, we end up buying 2 generations of them. And then the lids go into our storage container drawer and we pull these out and we're constantly confused, and now they become an inconvenience. And when those lids, if you end up putting them in the microwave or the dishwasher, the plastic degrades and then they end up not working anymore and they're not as functional, and we're worried about microplastics going into our food. So companies out there, there is a sustainable competitive advantage to get a line of glassware that has a better lid, that doesn't change. Tupperware didn't change their stuff for decades, and these people are changing their stuff like we change our underwear. So stop doing this to the insides of our kitchens, because it is making it harder and harder to store things properly in our fridges and freezers. And there's also pressures from the companies who make fridges and freezers. We don't say how they're designed. We don't have a say in it at all. I think there's another competitive advantage for those companies to actually either have us design them on the inside, that we get to pick and choose what it looks like, or that they design something that is better for food storage so that food doesn't spoil. Right now, some of the temperature controls, they go to freeze. You just bang it with your hand once, and all of a sudden your fridge is a freezer and all of your produce has been spoiled. So some of this spoilage at the household line is not because we chose it. It's because it was chosen for us by shoddy manufacturership from the items that we're using. So think about that. Think about pressuring those companies to change, and do your part in your house with what you're comfortable with. It's your awareness, your education, how much time you have for prep and planning, and think about going to the store more frequently so that you have less food to worry about spoilage, and see what that does to your waste numbers. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this because we were a farmer and we raised grass-fed beef, pastured pork, and pastured eggs. And we tried our hardest not to waste any of it, and we made decisions about our meat and our packaging so that it wouldn't get wasted. So, thank you for listening. When you are ready to book some free time with me in time spots in office hours, please visit my website at www.nakedacresfarmstead.ca. Go to the booking tab and schedule Zoom calls or phone calls, and we can chat. Good day, folks. We'll see you later.